Section 22 of Tales of King Arthur and the Round Table. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Tales of King Arthur and the Round Table by Andrew Lang. The End of It All. Now, when King Arthur left England to fight with Sir Launcelot, he ordered his nephew Sir Mordred to govern the land, which that false knight did gladly. And as soon as he thought he might safely do so, he caused some letters to be written, saying that King Arthur had been slain in battle, and he had himself crowned king at Canterbury, where he made a great feast, which lasted 15 days. After it was over, he went to Winchester, and summoned Queen Guinevere, and told her that on a certain day he would wed her, and that she should make herself ready. Queen Guinevere's soul grew cold and heavy as she heard these words of Sir Mordred's, for she hated him with all her might, as he hated her, but she dared show nothing, and answered softly that she would do his bidding, only she desired that first she might go to London to buy all manner of things for her wedding. Sir Mordred trusted her because of her fair speech, and let her go. Then the Queen rode to London with all speed, and went straight to the Tower, which she filled in haste with food, and called her men-at-arms round her. When Sir Mordred knew how she had beguiled him, he was wroth out of measure, and besieged the Tower, and assaulted it many times with battering rams and great engines, but could prevail nothing, for the Queen would never, for fair speech nor for foul, give herself into his hands again. The Bishop of Canterbury hastened unto Sir Mordred, and rebuked him for wishing to marry his uncle's wife. "Leave such desires," said the bishop, "or else I shall curse you with bell, book, and candle. Also, you noise abroad that my Lord Arthur is slain, and that is not so, and therefore you will make ill work in the land." At this Sir Mordred waxed very wroth, and would have killed the bishop, had he not fled to Glastonbury, where he became a hermit, and lived in poverty, and prayed all day long for the realm, for he knew that a fierce war was at hand. Soon word came to Sir Mordred that King Arthur was hurrying home across the seas, to be avenged on his nephew, who had proved traitor. Wherefore Sir Mordred sent letters to all the people throughout the kingdom, and many followed after him, for he had cunningly sown among them that with him was great joy and softness of life, while King Arthur would bring war and strife with him. So Sir Mordred drew with a great host to Dover, and waited for the king. Before King Arthur and his men could land from the boats and ships that had brought them over the sea, Sir Mordred set upon them, and there was heavy slaughter. But in the end he and his men were driven back, and he fled, and his people with him. After the fight was over, the king ordered the dead to be buried, and there came a man and told him that he had found Sir Gawain lying in a boat, and that he was sore wounded. And the king went to him and made moan over him. "You were ever the man in the world that I loved most," said he, "you and Sir Launcelot." "Mine uncle King Arthur," answered Sir Gawain, "my death day has come, and all through my own fault. Had Sir Launcelot been with you as he used to be, this unhappy war had never begun, and of that I am the cause, for I would not accord with him. And therefore I pray you give me paper, pen, and ink, that I may write to him." So paper and ink were brought, and Sir Gawain was held up by King Arthur, and a letter was writ, wherein Sir Gawain confessed that he was dying of an old wound given him by Sir Launcelot in the siege of one of the cities across the sea. And thus was fulfilled the prophecy of Merlin. "Of a more noble man might I not be slain," said he. "Also, Sir Launcelot, make no tarrying, but come in haste to King Arthur, for sore bested is he with my brother Sir Mordred, who has taken the crown, and would have wedded my lady Queen Guinevere, had she not sought safety in the Tower of London. Pray for my soul, I beseech you, and visit my tomb." And after writing this letter at the hour of noon, Sir Gawain gave up his spirit, and was buried by the king in the chapel within Dover Castle. Then was it told King Arthur that Sir Mordred had pitched a new field upon Barham Down, and the next morning the king rode hither to him, and there was a fierce battle between them, and many on both sides were slain. But at the last King Arthur's party stood best, and Sir Mordred and his men fled to Canterbury. After the knights which were dead had been buried, and those that were wounded tended with healing salves, King Arthur drew westwards towards Salisbury, and many of Sir Mordred's men followed after him. But they that loved Sir Launcelot went unto Sir Mordred. And a day was fixed between the king and Sir Mordred that they should meet upon a down near Salisbury, and give battle once more. But the night before the battle Sir Gawain appeared unto the king in a vision, and warned him not to fight next day, which was Trinity Sunday, as he would be slain, and many of his knights also, but to make a truce for a month, and at the end of that time Sir Launcelot would arrive, and would slay Sir Mordred and all his knights with him. As soon as he awoke, the king called the bishops and the wisest men of his army, and told them of his vision, and took counsel what should be done. And it was agreed that the king should send an embassage of 2 knights and 2 bishops unto Sir Mordred, and offer him as much goods and lands as they thought best, if he would engage to make a treaty for a month with King Arthur. So they departed and came to Sir Mordred, where he had a grim host of 100,000 men. For a long time he would not suffer himself to be entreated, but at the last he agreed to have Cornwall and Kent in King Arthur's days, and after all, England. Furthermore, it was decided that King Arthur and Sir Mordred should meet in the plain between their hosts, each with 14 persons. "I am glad of this," said King Arthur, when he heard what had been done, but he warned his men that if they were to see a sword drawn, they were to come on swiftly and slay that traitor Sir Mordred. For I in no wise trust him. And in like wise spake Sir Mordred unto his host. Then they two met, and agreed on the truce, and wine was fetched, and they drank, and all was well. But while they were drinking, an adder crept out of a bush, and stung one of the 14 knights on his foot, and he drew his sword to slay the adder, not thinking of anything but his pain. And when the men of both armies beheld that drawn sword, they blew trumpets and horns, and shouted grimly, and made them ready for battle. So King Arthur leaped on his horse, and Sir Mordred on his, and they went back to their own armies, and thus began the fight. And never was there seen one more doleful in any Christian land. For all day long there was rushing and riding, spearing and striking, and many a grim word was there spoken, and many a deadly stroke given. And at the end full 100,000 dead men lay upon the down, and King Arthur had but 2 knights left living, Sir Lucan and his brother Sir Bedivere. "Alas, that I should have lived to see this day," cried the king. "For now I am come to mine end. But would to God that I knew where were that traitor Sir Mordred that hath caused all this mischief." Then suddenly he saw Sir Mordred leaning on his sword among a great heap of dead men. "Give me my spear," said King Arthur unto Sir Lucan. "Sir, let him be," answered Sir Lucan. "Remember your dream, and leave off by this. For, blessed be God, you have won the field, and we 3 be alive, and of the others none is alive save Sir Mordred himself. If you leave off now, the day of destiny is past." "Tide me death, tide me life," said the king, "he shall not escape my hands, for a better chance I shall never have." And he took his spear in both hands, and ran towards Sir Mordred, crying, "Traitor, now is your death day come," and smote him under the shield, so that the spear went through his body. And when Sir Mordred felt he had his death wound, he raised himself up, and struck King Arthur such a blow that the sword clave his helmet, and then fell stark dead on the earth again. When Sir Lucan and Sir Bedivere saw that sight, they carried the king to a little chapel. But they hoped not to leave him there long, for Sir Lucan had noted that many people were stealing out to rob the slain of the ornaments on their armour, and those that were not dead already they slew. "Would that I could quit this place to go to some large town," said the king, when he had heard this, "but I cannot stand, my head works so. Ah, Launcelot, sorely have I missed thee." At that Sir Lucan and Sir Bedivere tried to lift him, but Sir Lucan had been grievously wounded in the fight, and the blood burst forth again as he lifted Arthur, and he died and fell at the feet of the king. "Alas," said the king, "he has died for my sake, and he had more need of help than I. But he would not complain, his heart was so set to help me. And I should sorrow yet more if I were still to live long, but my time flieth fast. Therefore, Sir Bedivere, cease moaning and weeping, and take Excalibur, my good sword, and go with it to yonder waterside, and when thou comest there, I charge thee, throw my sword in that water, and come again and tell me what thou hast seen." "My lord," answered Sir Bedivere, "your commandment shall be done." And he departed. But when he looked at that noble sword, and beheld the jewels and gold that covered the pommel and hilt, he said to himself, "If I throw this rich sword into the water, no good will come of it, but only harm and loss." So he hid Excalibur under a tree, and returned unto the king, and told him his bidding was done. "What did you see there?" asked the king. "Sir," answered Sir Bedivere, "I saw nothing but the winds and the waves." "You have not dealt truly with me," said the king. "Go back, and do my command. Spare not, but throw it in." But again Sir Bedivere's heart failed him, and he hid the sword, and returned to tell the king he had seen nothing but the wan water. "Ah, traitor!" cried King Arthur, "this is twice you have betrayed me. If you do not now fulfil my bidding, with mine own hands will I slay you, for you would gladly see me dead for the sake of my sword." Then Sir Bedivere was shamed at having disobeyed the king, and drew forth the sword from its hiding place, and carried it to the waterside, and with a mighty swing threw it far into the water. And as it flew through the air, an arm and hand lifted itself out of the water, and caught the hilt, and brandished the sword thrice, and vanished with it beneath the water. So Sir Bedivere came again unto the king, and told him what he saw. "Alas," said the king, "help me hence, for I have tarried over long." And Sir Bedivere took him on his back, and bare him to the waterside. And when they stood by the bank, a little barge containing many fair ladies and a queen, all in black hoods, drew near, and they wept and shrieked when they beheld King Arthur. "Now put me into the barge," said the king, and Sir Bedivere laid him softly down, and the ladies made great mourning, and the barge rode from the land. "Ah, my lord Arthur," cried Sir Bedivere, "what shall become of me now you go from me, and I am left here alone with my enemies?" "Comfort yourself," replied the king, "and do as well as you may, for I go unto the valley of Avilion to be healed of my grievous wound. And if you never more hear of me, pray for my soul." But Sir Bedivere watched the barge till it was beyond his sight. Then he rode all night till he came to a hermitage. Now, when Queen Guenevere heard of the battle, and how that King Arthur was slain, and Sir Mordred and all their knights, she stole away, and 5 ladies with her, and rode to Amesbury. And there she put on clothes of black and white, and became a nun, and did great penance, and many alms deeds, and people marvelled at her and at her godly life, and ever she wept and moaned over the years that were past, and for King Arthur. As soon as the messenger whom the king had sent with Sir Gawaine's letter reached Sir Launcelot, and he learned that Sir Mordred had taken for himself the crown of England, he rose up in wrath, and, calling Sir Bors, bid him collect their host, that they should pass at once over the sea to avenge themselves on that false knight. A fair wind blew them to Dover, and there Sir Launcelot asked tidings of King Arthur. Then the people told him that the king was slain, and Sir Mordred, and 100,000 men besides, and that the king had buried Sir Gawaine in the chapel at Dover Castle. Fair sirs, said Sir Launcelot, show me that tomb. And they showed it to him, and Sir Launcelot kneeled before it, and wept and prayed, and this he did for 2 days. And on the third morning he summoned before him all the great lords and leaders of his host, and said to them, Fair lords, I thank you all for coming here with me, but we come too late, and that will be bitter grief to me as long as I shall live. But since it is so, I will myself ride and seek my lady Guinevere in the west country, where they say she has gone, and tarry you here, I entreat you, for 15 days, and if I should not return, take your ships, and depart into your own country. Sir Bors strove to reason with him that the quest was fruitless, and that in the west country he would find few friends, but his words availed nothing. For 7 days Sir Launcelot rode, and at last he came to a nunnery, where Queen Guinevere was looking out from her lattice, and was ware of his presence as he walked in the cloister. And when she saw him she swooned, and her ladies and gentlewomen tended her. When she was recovered, she spoke to them and said, You will marvel, fair ladies, why I should swoon. It was caused by the sight of yonder knight who stands there, and I pray you bring him to me. As soon as Sir Launcelot was brought, she said to her ladies, Through me and this man has this war been wrought, for which I repent me night and day. Therefore, Sir Launcelot, I require and pray you never to see my face again, but go back to your own land, and govern it, and protect it, and take to yourself a wife, and pray that my soul may be made clean of its ill doing. Nay, madam, answered Sir Launcelot, that shall I never do, but the same life that you have taken upon you will I take upon me likewise. If you will do so, said the Queen, it is well, but I may never believe but that you will turn to the world again. Well, madam, answered he, you speak as it pleases you, but you never knew me false to my promise, and I will forsake the world as you have done. For if in the quest of the Sangreal I had forsaken its vanities with all my heart and will, I had passed all knights in the quest, except Sir Galahad my son. And therefore, lady, since you have taken you to perfection, I must do so also. And if I may find a hermit that will receive me, I will pray and do penance while my life lasts. Wherefore, madam, I beseech you to kiss me once again. No, said the Queen, that I may not do. And Sir Launcelot took his horse and departed in great sorrow. All that day and the next night he rode through the forest, till he beheld a hermitage and a chapel between 2 cliffs, and heard a little bell ring to mass. And he that sang mass was the Bishop of Canterbury, and Sir Bedivere was with him. After mass, Sir Bedivere told Sir Launcelot how King Arthur had thrown away his sword, and had sailed to the valley of Avilion, and Sir Launcelot's heart almost burst for grief. Then he kneeled down and besought the bishop that he might be his brother. That I will gladly, said the bishop, and put a robe upon him. After the 15 days were ended, and still Sir Launcelot did not return, Sir Bors made the great host go back across the sea, while he and some of Sir Launcelot's kin set forth to seek all over England till they found Sir Launcelot. They rode different ways, and by fortune Sir Bors came one day to the chapel where Sir Launcelot was. And he prayed that he might stay and be one of their fellowship, and in 6 months 6 other knights were joined to them, and their horses went where they would, for the knights spent their lives in fasting and prayer, and kept no riches for themselves. In this wise 6 years passed, and one night a vision came to Sir Launcelot in his sleep, charging him to hasten unto Amesbury. By the time that thou come there, said the vision, thou shalt find Queen Guinevere dead. Therefore take thy fellows with thee and fetch her corpse, and bury it by the side of her husband, the noble King Arthur. Then Sir Launcelot rose up and told the hermit, and the hermit ordered him to make ready, and to do all as the vision had commanded. And Sir Launcelot and 7 of the other knights went on foot from Glastonbury to Amesbury, and it took them 2 days to compass the distance, for it was far, and they were weak with fasting. When they reached the nunnery, Queen Guinevere had been dead but half an hour, and she had first summoned her ladies to her, and told them that Sir Launcelot had been a priest for near a 12 month. And hither he cometh as fast as he may, she said, to fetch my corpse, and beside my lord King Arthur he shall bury me. And I beseech Almighty God that I may never have power to see Sir Launcelot with my bodily eyes. Thus, said the ladies, she prayed for 2 days till she was dead. Then Sir Launcelot looked upon her face and sighed, but wept little, and next day he sang mass. After that the queen was laid on a bier drawn by horses, and 100 torches were carried round her, and Sir Launcelot and his fellows walked behind her singing holy chants, and at times one would come forward and throw incense on the dead. So they came to Glastonbury, and the Bishop of Canterbury sang a requiem mass over the queen, and she was wrapped in cloth, and placed first in a web of lead, and then in a coffin of marble, and when she was put into the earth, Sir Launcelot swooned away. You are to blame, said the hermit, when he awaked from his swoon. You ought not make such manner of sorrow. Truly, answered Sir Launcelot, I trust I do not displease God, but when I remember her beauty and her nobleness, and that of the king, and when I saw his corpse and her corpse lie together, my heart would not bear up my body, and I remembered too that it was through me and my pride that they both came to their end. From that day Sir Launcelot ate so little food that he dwined away, and for the most part was found kneeling by the tomb of King Arthur and Queen Guinevere. None could comfort him, and after 6 weeks he was too weak to rise from his bed. Then he sent for the hermit and to his fellows, and asked in a weary voice that they would give him the last rites of the church, and begged that when he was dead his body might be taken to Joyous Gard, which some say is Alnwick, and others Bamborough. That night the hermit had a vision that he saw Sir Launcelot being carried up to heaven by the angels, and he waked Sir Bors and bade him go and see if anything ailed Sir Launcelot. So Sir Bors went, and Sir Launcelot lay on his bed, stark dead, and he smiled as he lay there. Then was there great weeping and wringing of hands, more than had been made for any man, but they placed him on the horse bier that had carried Queen Guinevere, and lit 100 torches, and in 15 days they reached Joyous Gard. There his body was laid in the choir, with his face uncovered, and many prayers were said over him. And there, in the midst of their praying, came Sir Ector de Maris, who for 7 years had sought Sir Launcelot through all the land. Ah, Launcelot, he said, when he stood looking beside his dead body, thou wert head of all Christian knights. Thou wert the courtliest knight that ever drew sword, and the faithfullest friend that ever bestrode a horse. Thou wert the goodliest knight that ever man has seen, and the truest lover that ever loved a woman. End of section 22. End of Tales of King Arthur and the Round Table by Andrew Lang. Recording by Karen.